Hello students, I am Isha Mandirata. In today's video, we are going to discuss detection methods of ultrasonic waves along with the acoustic grating method. We'll be discussing 4 methods which are used for detecting ultrasonic waves in any medium. Why do we require specific methods for detecting ultrasonic waves? It's because these waves are inaudible to human beings as well as you can't see them. So that is the reason there are specific methods which will help us detect ultrasonic waves in a given medium. So let's start with the detection methods. Coming on to the first method, starting with the first one, it is known as the quartz crystal method, which is known as a quantitative method. Quantitative method is a method which can give us some result. It can also tell us about the parameters of the ultrasonic waves. What is the principle of this method? So it uses a quartz crystal. Now quartz crystal has a specific property. When you are pressurizing it, when you are exposing it to ultrasonic waves. Now because ultrasonic waves are vibrations, I say that in the presence of ultrasonic waves, my crystal will be under the effect of a sort of pressure. So due to this pressure, the other pairs of opposite faces will develop opposite charges. So it's the inverse process we use in piezoelectric method. In piezoelectric method, that is generation method, we give alternating charges and the crystal vibrates. But here we are using the opposite one. That means if there are ultrasonic waves present in a medium and you place your crystal there, the crystal will be under the effect of vibrations, giving electric charges. Let's see what exactly this effect is. Now these charges can be amplified using an electronic circuit. A CRO can be used to monitor the frequency as well as the strength of ultrasonic waves. Because the frequency of the waves can also be determined using this method, we say that it is a quantitative method because along with presence, it is also giving us frequency and the strength of ultrasonic waves. This is how the method can be explained. You can see in the first diagram that if I am pressurizing the crystal, opposite charges are being developed across the opposite faces. And you can see in the second diagram that with the help of a voltmeter, you can come to know what is the voltage generated. If you then connect it to the CRO, you can come to know the frequency of ultrasonic waves. Then coming on to the second method, which is known as the thermal detection method. Thermal detection method has the use or application of heat or increase in temperature. Let's see what this thermal detection method is. So the principle says when ultrasonic waves are propagated through a medium, the temperature of the medium changes due to alternate compressions and rarefactions. Now let me just be more elaborate. Why do we say that temperature of the medium changes? Suppose consider air and consider that sound is propagating through this medium air. So whenever you have compression, wherever compression is present, that means all the molecules of the medium come together and rarefaction means they are scattered. So I would say there is maximum pressure on the particles of the medium where there is compression. Due to this, there is a temperature increase. And when it comes on to the rarefaction, the particles are scattered. That means there is minimum effect of ultrasonic waves and hence the temperature is lowered. In this particular method, basically platinum wire is used. Why? Because platinum is a material which is highly sensitive to temperature changes. It can detect very, very small temperature changes. Let's understand what is thermal detection method. Due to the alternate compressions and rarefactions of the medium, the changes in temperature of platinum wire takes place, and if due to the changes in temperature of the medium, the resistance of platinum wire will also change, and that is indicated by a pointer in the position of the bridge, known as the Callendar-Griffith bridge. You can see 3 resistors and a platinum wire, and in between them there is a galvanometer shown. Suppose there are ultrasonic waves present, what happens? due to ultrasonic waves, there will be temperature changes at rarefactions and compressions. So there will be a change in resistance of wire. We know that temperature increases means resistance is going to increase. So wherever you have a point of compression, temperature will be more, resistance would be more. And if the platinum wire resistance changes, the position of the galvanometer connected in between is unbalanced, or I would say the bridge will become unbalanced. At the rarefaction, the temperature decreases. So again, the pointer movement will be opposite. Let me tell you, if there is no ultrasonic wave present, the galvanometer shown here will be at the rest position, indicating that there are no ultrasonic waves present. But when ultrasonic waves are present, due to changes in temperature because of compression and rarefaction, the resistance of the platinum wire changes, leading to unbalanced position of the bridge. This is how the presence of ultrasonic waves is detected. Next is a very easy method for detecting ultrasonic waves, that is known as a sensitive flame method. It doesn't require a circuitry, it's a simple method. A narrow sensitive flame is moved in the medium of ultrasonic waves. Suppose I assume that there are ultrasonic waves in this medium. What do? Is I simply take a candle, I blow the candle and I move it. If there are ultrasonic waves, the candle flame will flicker wherever there is compression. The candle flame will be steady wherever there will be rarefaction. Why? Because compression means maximum disturbance, so your flame will flicker. And rarefaction means minimum disturbance, so your flame will be steady. The flame remains steady at the antinodes, but it flickers at the nodes due to maximum change in pressure. What are the nodal points or nodes? The nodal points are where the compression is maximum. The antinodes or the antinodal points are the points where the disturbance is minimum, that is a rarefaction. By observing the behavior of the flame, we can detect the presence of ultrasonic waves. And this is how it can be detected. You can see in the diagram that wherever you have a rarefied region, wherever we have antinodal points or wherever we have minimum disturbance, rarefaction, the flame is steady. But whenever it comes to the compressed region, that means maximum disturbance or the nodal points, you can see the flame is flickering. This is just a qualitative method. It can only tell you whether ultrasonic waves are present in the medium or not. You cannot determine the wavelength or frequency of ultrasonic waves using this method. Now moving on to the fourth method, that is the most commonly used method, the most effective method I would say is the Kunz tube method. Now this method consists of a glass tube. Why do we need a glass tube? Because we are using a lycopodium powder. Lycopodium powder, or you can say cork powder. It's just like husk or dust, woody dust you can say. So lycopodium powder, due to the ultrasonic waves, it will move in such a way that it will form heaps. To see these heaps, to come to know the wavelength of these waves, we require a transparent surface, and that is the reason we are using a transparent glass tube. Now this glass tube has an adjustable piston and a cork which is movable. At the other end, there is a source which can generate piezoelectric waves of suitable frequency. So if ultrasonic waves are passed from the other end, due to the ultrasonic waves, we know that ultrasonic waves are sound waves. They are having regions of compressions and rarefactions. Compressions can be related to nodal points. Rarefactions can be related to antinodal points. You can see in the diagram, N means maximum disturbance, compressed region indicating nodes. You can see A, minimum disturbance, antinodes or the rarefaction. So if ultrasonic waves are passed, what happens to the lycopodium powder inside the Kunz tube, inside this glass tube? The lycopodium powder will take the shape of nodal points and antinodal points. That means it forms heaps, maximum amplitude, minimum amplitude, maximum amplitude, minimum amplitude. It actually gives us loops or heaps. According to the loops from the glass tube, we can come to know the wavelength. How? We know that the distance between two nodal points or two antinodal points is known as lambda. So half the distance, lambda by 2, can be calculated, and hence lambda, that is wavelength of the ultrasonic waves, can also be calculated from this method. Now this method is not only detecting ultrasonic waves, but it is also giving us the value of wavelength of ultrasonic waves along with frequency. Hence, I can say that Kunz tube method is also a quantitative method. Generally, low frequency ultrasonic waves are detected by this method. If the frequency of ultrasonic waves is very, very high, it will be difficult for us to judge or to properly see the heaps of lycopodium powder. So generally, low frequency ultrasonic waves are used. When ultrasonic waves are passed through the glass tube, the lycopodium powder gets collected in the form of heaps at the nodes and it is blown off at the antinodes. As I said, at the nodes you have maximum disturbance, maximum amplitude. At the antinodes, minimum disturbance, no amplitude can be seen. The average distance between two consecutive heaps gives us the value of half of the wavelength, through which we can also find out wavelength. So using this method, even velocity of ultrasonic waves can be calculated, and thus it's a quantitative method. So these were the four basic ultrasonic wave detection methods. Now I'll move on to the topic which is known as the acoustic grating method. Now this acoustic grating method can also be called as acoustic detection method, the ultrasonic wave detection method, but it is more commonly used to find out velocity of ultrasonic waves in a given liquid. So it serves the purpose of both. It is also a detector of ultrasonic waves. Along with this, it also gives us the velocity of these waves in a liquid medium. So what is the basic principle of using acoustic grating method? Now grating is nothing but related to the phenomenon of diffraction. And this diffraction is because of ultrasonic waves, because of sound waves. That is the reason we use the term acoustic grating. What is the principle of this method? When ultrasonic waves are passed through a liquid, the density of the liquid varies due to the variation in pressure. How does pressure vary? Pressure varies at nodal and antinodal points. It varies due to compression and rarefaction. So the liquid acts as a diffraction grating. Now when a monochromatic source of light is passed through the acoustical grating method, this light will get diffracted. So you fill up a normal liquid, but due to the ultrasonic waves, the liquid itself behaves as if it's a diffraction grating. And when we pass a light source, a monochromatic light source, the light will get diffracted. According to the diffraction of light, we can find out the velocity of ultrasonic waves. I know it's very difficult to just understand with the help of a description. Let's understand how the method is used, what is the construction of the method, because diagrams always give you better clarity. So in this diagram, you can see that there is a liquid column in between. We have a transparent liquid column. Why? Because we are going to take readings from it. So there is a transparent liquid column. On the top of the liquid column, there is a reflector. You know, ultrasonic waves have a property. Whenever there is a change in medium, they are reflected back. Right? So the moment and where are the ultrasonic waves generated? So just look at the diagram. The bottom portion, there is an oscillator, and particularly piezoelectric oscillator is used. So this oscillator will generate ultrasonic waves which will move in the liquid column like this. So it is moving in the liquid column like this. When the ultrasonic waves touch the reflector, they are reflected back. So this is the transmission, this is the reflection, and such waves, they overlap each other, forming stationary wave pattern in the liquid column. Now this stationary wave pattern, wherever there is maximum pressure, wherever there is a node, there will be maximum amplitude, maximum disturbance, so maximum density of the material. And wherever there is an antinode present, minimum disturbance, the density of liquid will be minimum. So according to the nodes and antinodes, the liquid which we have filled in between will have a variation in density. Maximum density of liquid at nodes, minimum density of liquid at antinodes. Thus, the liquid which we have filled behaves as a diffraction grating. Understood? Then, on the left hand side, you can see there is a sodium lamp. Now, sodium lamp is a monochromatic source, monochromatic light source, having photons of only single wavelength. But because it's in the form of a bulb, what do we need is, we need a parallel beam of light. So we pass on this light to a collimator, which is a assembly of lens. So this converts all the light it gathers into a parallel beam. So this parallel beam of light then passes on through the liquid column, and this liquid column, which was a normal liquid, due to the presence of ultrasonic waves, now it has turned on into a diffraction grating. So the light which passes through this liquid column will get diffracted. And light is getting diffracted means if we plot it on a screen, we can see a central maximum, the first order maxima minima, second order maxima minima, as you can see in the diagram. And according to the first order, second order, third order, the maxima minima, we can come to know the grating distance. This grating distance will actually give us wavelength of the ultrasonic source. So if we know the angle of diffraction is theta, this is the equation of diffraction. D sine theta is equals to n lambda. Theta is the angle of diffraction. Lambda is the wavelength of light source. And n is the order of diffraction. If you are seeing only one dot, n is 1. If you are seeing two dots, n is equals to, if you are seeing three dots, n is 2. If you are seeing 5 dots, n is 3, and so on. The grating element can be defined as D is equals to lambda u by 2. Combining the above two equations, you can say that lambda u is equals to 2n lambda by sine theta. So lambda u is actually the parameter which we need to find out. So 2n lambda, lambda is the light source wavelength, the wavelength of the light source used. Theta is the angle of diffraction, n is the order of diffraction. So combining these equations, you can come to know the wavelength of ultrasonic waves. And once we determine the wavelength of ultrasonic waves, if the frequency of resonance is also known, we can find the velocity of ultrasonic waves using the formula V is equals to F lambda U. So using acoustic grating method, wavelength of ultrasonic waves can be determined, and hence the velocity of ultrasonic waves through liquids and gases can also be determined. Because this detects the ultrasonic waves and also gives us wavelength and velocity of the ultrasonic waves, this method is also known as a quantitative method, giving us detection as well as parameters. So in today's video, we have discussed the 4 basic detection methods along with acoustic grating method. The acoustic grating method is also a detection method, but generally the application is to find or determine the velocity of ultrasonic waves in liquids and gases. So total 5 different methods were discussed in today's video. Hope you have understood all the topics I discussed very well. Thank you.